allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, roll call. Susan? Yes. We have Cheryl?
Here.
Sorry. Jan?
Here.
Heather?
Present.
Jay?
Here.
And I'm here, and
Berna is absent with notice.
I figured.
Okay. Okay, the agenda, as long as there are no changes, it stands approved. Anybody? Okay. And the minutes, same thing. As long as there are no changes, they stand approved. And now we are all ready to call to audience. Yes?
I'm Alan Allgaier. I now play a role of public citizen and not representing any group. I want to talk on topic 10.5 on the agenda, about the bylaws. I'm sort of a bylaws wonk, and so I read it with interest. Just a couple things I wanted to say as the board considers these. On page 37, we have a reference to an Open Meetings Act handbook. That's a dead link. If you were to click on it, the hyperlink under the covers is not there. I would recommend the board repair that or remove it as a hyperlink. The second item, it appears that the board is considering adding an Appendix 3 suggested director and board evaluation process. It is my recommendation the board consider that while the pages about that follow are probably awesome for career development and help everyone, I would highly recommend you not codify that as part of your bylaws for two reasons. One, anything called suggested probably should not be in the bylaws. Secondly, bylaws should be the minimum necessary for the proper functioning of an organization. The several pages of career development stuff there, honestly, it provides ammunition for an opposing attorney if there were ever a question about whether the board acted in according to its bylaws or not. There's pages and pages of trustees should have this knowledge and that knowledge, etc. And my recommendation is that while you might want to use such tools, I would not put them in the bylaws. Your opposing attorneys are going to read that stuff and look for ammunition to hold it against the board to say, hey, you didn't have such qualifications that you said, etc. So that is my recommendation, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay. Any other audience members that would like to speak? Okay. We are at the director's report.
Yeah, we have a written report here. It's been busy. The audit is going well. We're down to our final corrections, and that is pretty much done. So we will definitely have that for next month's meeting. Any questions for me?
I have one more.
Mm-hmm.
The third bullet down with the training that you did, I just wondered if there's anything you could share with the board about discovering how to monitor staff satisfaction and find gaps in training. I was just wondering what you picked up from.
Oh, the customer centricity.
Yeah.
It was actually really not at all what I expected. It was done, I sent you my form, but it was done by the Naval Academy, which I didn't expect. But it was more about treating staff as customers, as my customers, basically, and making sure that they were satisfied. But a lot of it was on onboarding processes. So making sure that you reconnect with them after the onboarding process, a month or so after, because when you're thrown all that information when you first start, you don't even know what you don't know yet. So to make sure you check in with them after a month or two and see what gaps were there. Was there anything missing? Was there something you should include for the next person that you didn't get? So that was definitely very valuable.
Yeah, it just sounded interesting.
Yeah, it really was. That was good.
Thank you.
Anyone
Thank you.
else? Questions? Susan? No. AJ? Cheryl?
I do.
Okay.
On the same bullet point, you said you learned some ideas to include in achieving our strategic plan goals. What goals specifically, and what were the ideas?
Well, one of our goals is creating I'm not remembering the name of it, but a welcoming space. So in being a welcoming space, it means making sure that you have, the access that people need. So one of the biggest things I think I got from that training was that you can have an audit done to make sure you're following all the disability requirements. And that's definitely something I'd like to do. It's a nonprofit company in Sanilac County, or were they in Oakland County? But anyway, they will come out and do evaluation and go through, like they probably come in with a wheelchair and go around and they'll tell you if your doors are which doors are too heavy that don't open correctly, or which aisleways might not be wide enough, or which chairs are not conducive. So I thought that was really valuable.
Is there an expense to that, or do they just come out?
I guess it used to be free, and then so many people were asking for it. They do charge now, but I don't think it's very much. I want to say it was like $200. So I think it would be worth doing. Make sure we are up to code.
Yeah, I think we had one before because we made some changes in our bathrooms and a couple of places like that. But that's been a while.
Yeah. And these have been moved around, so it might be worth doing that one.
And one other question, I noticed that we had our quarterly Goyette. Anything that needs to be reported, that they reported?
Our vestibule heaters, the one in the back and this one, they were having some issues with, so those needed some repairs. And then the boiler, what was that thing called? The gauge, or
No, all I remember is the vestibule.
just the vestibule? Well,
Yeah, one of the blower motors is out, so that needs to be replaced. It's just, what was it, 1,500, 2,000? So we're waiting for them to get it apart. So,
Okay.
but other than that, everything was good.
All right, thank you.
Anything else, Cheryl? I have a question, just the final bullet point. Later on in the packet, you'll give us more information.
Yes.
Okay, on strategic plan.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And door count.
Yep, the door count, so this is from September through February, because August was the last one that I did. So it's pretty similar to the last one that we did. The first graph shows patrons coming into the building. That's why it's heavier early in the day and lighter in the end. And patrons out. So you can see there's still a lot of people in the building when we close at 8 o'clock. And a lot of people coming in early in the morning. So these are the top down. It's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday too. Couldn't get those letters to stay on the image when I tried to print it, but so.
Is there something unique about Thursdays for the light in and out?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's quiet on Thursdays.
This is over a
Well,
long period of time, too.
Thursday is Miss Fran's late day. So
Oh, wow.
that's why.
Well, we can
That's right.
reschedule that.
Yeah.
Our rock star's not in the building.
Yeah, so that's why, and you can see it's, that's our darkest spot for people leaving the building at 8 o'clock. She does her bedtime story times that night too. So
Interesting.
it is. Mhm.
Tells a lot.
Mhm.
Any questions on door count from any of us?
I just wanted to ask about Friday evening since we're closing early.
Mhm.
And it seems like we have, quite a few patrons at that time. Have you had any requests about staying open later or anything like that?
I haven't.
Okay.
Mm-mm.
Okay, anything else? Okay, thank you, Laura. Trustee reports. I have FOL. Are there any other reports? Okay, I'll give the FOL report. I attended on March 11th. The treasurer's report was $15,839.04 for a balance. Bookstore sales for February were $216.92. Bookstore donated 235 books to the Harvey Swanson Literary Night. The bookstore hours will be 9 to 4 on the day of the M15 garage sale, which is May 4th. Laura reported the emergency binder needed to be updated. The contract was up, signatures were needed, and $1 was offered to lease the space. Laura shared the strategic plan. I shared the results of the trustee open house. Fran shared that she went to Kindergarten Roundup and promoted the FOL. And she asked for a donation of bookstore coupons to go into the bags for the BGYA. Any questions? Okay. Any other trustee reports? Okay. Jay, finances.
All right, gonna make sure I'm at the next FOL meeting here. Page 8 and 9 have the check register for this month. You'll notice near the top, February 7th, we replaced the staff server at $259. Nothing other than that, kind of stood out for me. Anyone has any questions on the check register? We'll go on to the balance sheet. Or, I'm sorry, the balance sheet at page 10. Near the bottom there in the equity section, it shows the committed fund balance still of $800,000. We talked about that last month. That's part of the year-end adjustment that's being done. So that'll show properly $400,000 going forward. Any questions or concerns about the balance sheet? Now let's go on to the income statement, the next several pages. Look to be all normal types of activity. From time to time, people look at the percentages of that's been spent, and nothing jumped out at me. Any questions that I had? Does anybody else have one?
I have a couple.
Mm-hmm.
So first of all, on page 12, technology, 32% seems high, and I assume that's because of the server that's on there, but I just want to make sure that I'm not missing something else that should be there. That was kind of, okay. And then the professional services, at 46%, that seemed high to me as well. Is there something that, the IT contract, is that's kind of, because we pay all of that in one year.
Yeah.
Okay, thank
For the
you.
whole year, yeah.
Any other questions? Okay.
If not, I'll ask the board to approve the expenses for the month of February in the amount of $84,095.25.
Move to approve?
Second.
And this, we would need a roll call vote. So Susan?
Yes.
Jay?
Yes.
Heather?
Yes.
Cheryl?
Yes.
And me, yes. Okay. Thank you, Jay.
Thank you.
Motion passes. We're at committee reports. 10.1 is the ad hoc trustee recruitment. It's time to dissolve that committee. It was a great night, and it's over. We won't need it again for 4 years, hopefully. Okay, so that has now been dissolved, and that's not an action item because it was an appointment. 10.2, our board training. So we have handled the financials. Thank you, Cheryl. And you think we're done then?
Yes.
Okay. The last part of our training is a review of Robert's rules, and bless her heart, Shauna's working on that, but she's going to need a couple of months. So for next month, it looks like we're free. So in May, Susan is going to do chapter 13 of the trustee manual, and June, Jay, you would do chapter 14, and then maybe in July we'll get back to Robert's rules. Okay, so that's where we are with that. And now we're to policies, Laura.
Okay, so the confidentiality policy is coming back for board approval. I did make the change, and I apologize, it's not in red, that was my fault. On page 15, B3, I did add in and be represented by library counsel, that was suggested. And then I did ask the attorney about the statement about not talking to the board about if there was a federal case, and she said that, and I sent you her response. She said that would not be an option. It's not even an option. So if the federal government comes to me and says, don't tell anybody, I'm not telling anybody. And I just don't have an option, so.
Well, and the key thing she said is that would not create any liability for the board.
Right.
So that was the important part of that.
Right.
Okay.
So unless there are any questions?
I just have one kind of grammatical thing on page 15 under number 3, and it has it a couple of other places after that as well, where it says the library director or their designee. I feel like that should be a his or her rather than a their designee. At the top of page 15.
Oh, the attorney is, with all of our policies, we're not supposed to use his and her anymore.
Oh,
It's
so
supposed to be
there
there.
is correct.
It is correct.
All right,
Mhm.
thank you.
That does seem like a step backwards, but that's okay. Okay.
Move to
Okay.
approve the confidentiality policy as presented.
Could we have a second?
Second.
Go ahead.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. And we are on to the photo reading.
Okay, so the photo weeding policy and the photo weeding guide, which is the image that's in your packet, are part of a policy that was created when we used to keep photographs. We don't keep them anymore. So any photographs that are taken, we will post on Facebook. We have our waiver that people sign, and then they're deleted. We don't keep them anymore. We do keep, the only thing we do keep is if there's any articles in the newspaper that include photos or not include photos, we do scan those and keep them. So we have a library history to go back on, but we don't keep photos anymore. So my recommendation is that we rescind the photo reading policy and the photo reading guide.
Okay, any questions? Cheryl? Heather? Jay? Susan?
Nope, I'm good.
Okay, could we have a motion?
Move to approve as presented, or move to approve the rescinding of that policy.
I'll second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that motion passes, and the photo reading policy and guide are rescinded. All right, Laura, social media.
So the social media policy has a few changes. This is a first look for you guys if you have edits. This has not gone to the attorney yet, so because I wanted to get your feedback first. But we reformatted it. The policy committee did go over it, and these are the suggested changes in red.
Anything stand out that you think we need to?
Not really. Not really.
Any questions? Cheryl?
On page 21, when we talk about the rules of use, it doesn't say in here who would make that decision to remove these things. So I don't know if
Okay.
we might want to add that in somewhere.
Okay,
So when you look at it with the attorney, you can ask her about
Okay.
that.
What do you mean, suggest? Who, you mean
Um,
up to the director, or?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's probably,
Okay.
Yeah.
it might even be like the other ones have been by the director or designee. We've
Okay.
used that a lot.
Mhm.
And then, under the same section, under number 5, it says spam or commercial messages that would violate Michigan Campaign Finance Act or other election laws. What about other types of spam?
Yeah.
So I think we need to expand that definition.
Okay.
for consistency, I guess, putting periods at the end of each of those sections,
Oh,
or
okay.
moving them all, one or
Yeah.
the other.
And then on number 6 says solicitation of funds. We would want to say not including those by the library or the Friends, I would think. And the same thing on number 8. You know, it's like, who makes that decision?
Who makes the decision if it's part of the
If it's
Privacy
harmful
Act?
to minors or not?
Oh. I'll ask the attorney about that.
I think there would have to be probably some kind of definition there too,
Okay,
just so it's really clear.
okay.
That's all I had.
Okay.
I have one, just top of page 22. I feel like appeals should go through the director first before they come to the board, or do you think that that should be just to the board?
Well, we changed that to say board president because that's what all of our other policies are. When there's an
Okay.
appeal, then it goes to the,
Well, I feel
Board
like some of
president.
them, though, don't they go to the director first?
not necessarily, like the book challenges.
Right.
They come to me and I make the decision. If they don't like the decision,
They
then the
appeal to the
appeal is for
board.
the board.
Oh, but it's not appealing to the director.
Right,
Okay, all right,
Right.
thank you. So it's more of a definition thing. It'll still go to you
right.
to make that
Starts with
decision or
it, right.
whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Okay. Jay?
Nothing.
Susan? Nope, I'm good. Okay. So this is a first look, and it will go back to committee and then come back to us next month.
Not
And the attorney.
to the attorney.
To the attorney.
Yeah, I'll make those changes and send it to her and then I'll bring it
Okay.
back next month.
That sounds good. Okay, the release form. Photo, video, audio release form.
This one just really needed to be reformatted. It was, it looked like it had been typed on a typewriter. So I just cleaned it up a little bit and then just fixed a couple small things. But legally, it's still very sound and I think it includes everything we need.
Okay. Does this need to go back to the attorney then, or just
Well, I didn't know if anybody had any suggestions for it first.
Cheryl?
No, it's fine. I mean, it's what we've been using basically.
Nothing? Susan, nothing?
I
have
will send
nothing.
it to the attorney just to make sure that nothing has changed, but
Okay.
I'll bring it back next month.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you, Laura. Jay, we're to finance.
Okay. The Finance Committee met on March 18th. We reviewed the draft financial audit provided by Cambridge and Company. And we, as Laura said, we expect the final report to be reported to the full board at our May meeting. Our May meeting or April? Our
April.
Yeah, my mistake. We discussed the first draft of our capital expenditure plan and budget and expect to finalize that in the next month and then bring that to the board in May. And on a related topic, we were provided with a draft capital asset policy from the library's attorney. There was one draft that had been created earlier and was never brought to the board. Rather than modifying it, it made sense to start with the draft that we received from the attorney because it's used apparently in other libraries. So we'll be discussing that at our next meeting. We discussed feedback from Gaybridge about the implications. If you recall, the board approved our budget for this year at the line item level instead of at the higher cost center level. And in talking with Gaybridge about that, they said that it really has no impact on them. When they do their financial audit, they're looking at that higher level, the cost center level. However, they would recommend that if there are movements of funds within the line items to maybe aggregate them at the end of the year and have the board, make sure the board's approved those. We also reviewed invoices for the purchase of the new server. As you recall, we postponed that in our last meeting because we didn't have all the invoices. Those are now in your packet starting on page 24. Page 25?
24.
Okay, 24. The total, you can see there is $8,259. All the detail is in your package, and if there are any questions on that, I'd like to ask that the board formally approve that purchase.
Move to approve.
Second. Second. Any questions? I have a question, but I'll go last.
Okay.
Susan?
I have no questions.
No? How do you feel about this? Are you happy with?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
That was
Yeah.
my question. Okay.
Mhm.
This is money, so Susan,
Yes.
Jay?
Yes.
Heather? Yes. Cheryl?
Yes.
And me, yes. Okay, so that purchase approval is passed for the server.
I did include the warranty, just so you guys have it too.
Yeah.
To take a
It
look
was,
at.
what, 5 years?
5 years, thank you.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, Jay, bylaws?
Jay,
Yeah.
am I the only member of this?
Yes, you are. Okay.
Susan?
Susan.
There we go.
No.
Page 34.
You can do it together.
Okay, fine. You want to start or you want me to start?
You can go ahead.
Okay, start on page 34. We have the trustees' bylaws, and you'll see some minor changes. For example, on page 34, changing by virtue to using the word funder and capitalizing the word board throughout, little changes like that. Page 35, again, the word board is capitalized. Page 36, no changes highlighted there. Page 7, apparently we need to update the link on page 37 for the Open Meetings Act handbook. A small change on the bottom of page 37. Really, the biggest change is on page 39, and that's really just rewording slightly. It says the board will determine the budget allocation for staff expenditures, operating expenditures. We added capital expenditures. So that's the big change in section 1 on page 39. And then section 2, it says the library director shall prepare an annual draft budget in cooperation with the finance officer and submit it to the board for approval. Just rewording the words that are already there. So a number of small changes throughout. The biggest change would be on page 40, adding appendix 3. You'll recall that we already have an appendix 1 and 2 I think the board had a sense that they didn't want to lose all the intellectual capital that went into developing some of these things. So they added to our bylaws the director hiring appointment process, trustee vacancy process, and it was suggested that we add this director and board evaluation process that we just updated again. So the word suggested was added to the top of page 41 and the other subsequent pages to let the board know that this is not a fixed thing. We're not holding people accountable to following this in the future. It was more for suggestion, kind of a starting point. Anything else you'd like to say?
No, I think it's more for a reference point. I will say that where is it? Oh, also there's no link under ethics statement under the section 4.
On page 35?
On 35, yeah, if you look at ethics statement at the very bottom of that paragraph, I couldn't click on it. So
Okay.
I did provide everybody the copy of it in case you wanted to know
Oh,
what it
so
said.
that's
Yeah.
why we got that copy.
And
Yeah,
what
that's
happened,
where
Jen,
is
just so
that?
you know, that when I was making the changes, and, we went back and forth
Right.
with them, that was put back in, and apparently the link didn't get back in.
Ah.
So we have to add the
okay.
link on page 35, and also the
Okay.
Open Meetings Act link that was pointed out earlier. So one question, Laura, you might be able to answer this, is are the bylaws have gone through the attorney process as well, just like any other policies of the board? Yeah.
No. Mm-mm. Not that I know of. Do you know if they ever have been?
So
No.
that would be a question if the board would like to do that or not.
Okay. Any questions from us? Cheryl?
I just had, throughout the document, there's places where there's these little red dashes that are just kind of stuck in there.
Yeah, those indicate an extra space removed. So for example, if throughout the document there's one space between each word, and it found two, it would highlight the one to be removed.
Okay.
Grammar.
Yeah. So it's software.
Software.
Yeah. But if you're going to make changes, why not make them all?
So at the end of sentences, you're only putting one space instead of two?
Give me an example of what you're looking at.
Well, look on page 4.
Page 4, page 31. Okay.
Yeah. At the very bottom, that very bottom sentence, you have where you're taking out a space there, which leaves only one space between sentences.
Do you mean with where it says library director, period?
Page 37.
Oh,
Page
37.
37, last
Yeah.
sentence.
Yeah.
where it
So
says-
after the period, it's removed. There was two spaces in there, so it's removing one of those two. That's correct.
There's supposed to be 2.
Okay.
If
so
you ever went to
we'd like
secretarial school, there's supposed to be 2.
I agree with
We'd like to
Cheryl.
change that.
2 spaces after every period.
Huh?
2 spaces after every period.
Yes, there should be.
And I thought
Well-
that changed.
Yeah, it has changed.
It
And
changed for things like
Okay.
throughout the document.
text and stuff like that, but I don't think for formal documents it has
Okay.
changed.
Okay, so if you go to, for example, section 2 on that same page, fiscal authority part A, there's a couple sentences in there. So after the word funds, where there's a period, there's one space there. That's consistent throughout the document, except where you see those red dashes that you just pointed out. So the whole document prior to tonight had one space, but if you had 2 spaces, that's what's being corrected. If you want to go back to 2 spaces, that's fine too, but I would not recommend it.
Changing more.
Along with that, and maybe I'm stepping out of turn, Cheryl, but before we leave that, you also put in a lot of commas, like before and, you have a comma,
Okay,
on purpose?
yes.
Tell me why.
Grammatically,
Huh, because I have never known that.
uh,
If you're
give me an
using
example of what
and,
you're,
pardon me?
give me an example of what you're.
Well, that's what's funny, is I found a ton of them and I'm not finding
Well, look
them.
on page 34 on section 4.
Section 4.
The mission of the library is, and you put,
That's
comma.
removing the comma, actually.
Pardon?
That's really-
It's removing the comma.
That
And
comma's
inserting-
being removed?
It's being removed and the word "to" is being inserted there. So it reads, "The mission of the library is to engage, educate, enrich, and empower."
So
Okay.
you're removing the comma there?
Because the word "to" is
Oh.
inserted in there as a,
Okay.
Yeah, with all these little things, it's hard to tell what's red, black,
oh, okay.
you
Apologize
know,
for that.
what's being removed,
Okay,
added.
found one.
Okay.
The bottom of page 35, section 4,
Section 4.
last line. Vacancies in the office of vice president, comma, secretary, and financial officer. But secretary, you put comma, or are you removing a comma?
Secretary is adding a comma.
Adding a
before the word
comma.
"and," yes.
If you're using the word and, I thought you didn't need a comma.
There's a number of choices when writing. You can go 2 spaces, you can have
Wow.
commas before it. I mean, the point was just, is we're going to change this, why not make it consistent?
Okay.
So,
I can live with it, I was just surprised.
It's
Okay.
called an Oxford comma.
Yes.
It's a thing.
Really?
It's a thing.
It's a real debate.
proper English.
Yeah. Okay. I was taught my first graders, you don't need a comma there.
You don't.
I taught my kids you did.
Yeah, you're right. As long as you're consistent throughout, you're right.
Right,
Yes.
and I can live with it, I just was having a little freak out myself. Okay.
Okay, so the question is,
It's that OCD coming up, you know.
exactly. The question is, do we want to approve this with these changes? Do we want to send it to the attorney first? Any,
Are we done with questions, though?
are we done with questions?
Any more questions?
Yes, I have one.
Oh, good.
Okay.
At the top of page 35, we rescinded the ALA Bill of Rights, did we not? So we should probably take that out of there.
We can still have
That's up
an
to you
ethics
guys.
statement, I think.
The
Well, the
ethics
trustee
statement is
ethics
different.
statement is different.
That's different.
Yeah.
Yes,
Mhm.
but I
That's
think
right.
we rescinded the Bill of Rights.
So you're talking about just the link.
Well, yeah, and the wording there.
As amended.
So it would just stop at, so the board shall abide by the public library trustee ethics statement published by United for Libraries, January 2012. And then keep the link for the ethics statement.
Actually, I think you're correct on that.
Yeah.
That was what I had submitted, but
I looked at it.
Well, no, we
Back to
keep
what's
the
on
ethics statement, but we do
Right.
need to take out the
The Bill
ALA
of Rights
Bill of
one,
Rights.
because we rescinded that.
So how will we write that?
I think you could just take out that part.
United for Libraries,
Just put a period after 2012.
Right, and then
Okay.
have the ethics statement link there, but not the other one.
okay. Yes, you're right. Thanks for noticing that one.
Yep, absolutely. And then also, with the director evaluation stuff, Jay and I talked about this a little bit when I had sent him this information. Is there a place where we could keep, you know, the questions and that kind of stuff so that it's accessible to the board? I'm not sure that the bylaws is the right place to have that. I think that it's okay to have a process in here, but I just didn't know. But I think it's important that we have some of those examples someplace.
We could
for
keep it where we
people to-
keep the board policies
Okay,
on the
just as an example or something. I just, you know, I wanted it to be accessible to, you know, future boards.
Well, that was our biggest concern, is that we've done all this work and
Right.
a new board comes in and it's not accessible to anybody.
Right.
And now,
right.
because we had to start from square one,
Yeah,
and then you force the new board to start from square one again, which is a lot of waste of effort and results.
We also did this when we, in fact, you came up with a list for hiring a director. Where
Right.
did we put that? Was that in our trustee manual? Where did we put that? Because it's not here.
I don't know, and that's what
but
we
see,
have to
this is,
figure
yeah,
out.
this is the issue, is we want to make sure that there's continuity.
I know I have it. I know I have seen it recently.
Which is why we added these appendices.
Right.
Yep.
The board does have a folder on the server that's only accessible by Kathleen and I. That's where your policies are, the board policies are, and we
Okay.
could put those things in there, just so they're
Okay.
there for future.
So I think that's right. We should not necessarily have these appendix in the bylaws, but we have to have them. I'm going to look that up because I know I just saw it. And I thought we had put it into our bylaws, but that doesn't make sense either, does it?
So do we need to move this to next month?
Well, we're not approving tonight.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, sure.
Can we let the bylaws committee figure that out and then get back to us? Where we put it?
I'll tell you where to put it.
Really, we're being recorded, Jay.
We'll work with Laura to figure out a
Figure
good
out a
place
spot.
for. Yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense not to have it in here as part of the bylaws, now that I think about it.
Yeah.
So, but it has to be accessible to us, so.
I just think it's important to not lose that information
I do
somehow
too.
or another, you know, so.
Okay.
But I think, I remember we said the same thing when we put together our process for hiring a director, and we said we do
Well, it's in
not
here.
want to lose that.
That's in
Right.
here. That's right
Yeah, but all three of these probably should be put
Well,
in separate.
where is it in here then?
Well, it's not, they didn't print that part out because we weren't reviewing that, but
Uh-huh.
it's in the bylaws.
It is, it's
It
our
is in the
appendix
bylaws
one.
then.
Yes.
Okay. So we're.
Yeah, we saved all of that.
And trustee vacancy, we did the same thing.
Yeah.
So this appendix 3 needs to go along with 1 and 2 wherever we plan to put it, but
Okay.
not in the bylaws.
Is the board saying basically maybe it shouldn't be in here, it should be somewhere else, but that'd be
Well,
accessible?
maybe we just need to research that a little bit more and see where,
And figure that out.
figure that out. because
Before we
it just-
make a decision.
Right.
Yeah.
Can we bring this back next month? Is that okay? Thank you. Okay. So, let's see. Is this 10.5 or 0.51?
Wait, 5.1.
5.1, review. Okay, next month. Okay. Anything else on that? That is not an action item, so we can go on to communication. I don't think we have anything, do we? Okay. Unfinished business. Study room doors. Laura.
Okay, so once upon a time, a long time ago, we decided to look at putting some doors on some of the alcoves on the adult section to create some quiet study rooms. We got a couple of quotes, and then we got a grant for $10,000, so we decided to do one. So we got a quote for the one door, and then Shauna and Alyssa wrote another grant, a large grant, hoping to get 2 of them done. We didn't get the grant. So now we are revisiting the one door. So we had to get new quotes because the other ones were over a year old. So you have 3 quotes here. One of them, Allied, Shauna has contacted them for a newer quote. We don't think it's going to be a whole lot different. This is the old one. They didn't get the new one to us in time. So this is the older one, but we don't think it's going to be a whole lot different. So we do have the 3 quotes. One of them is just a little older. We were kind of surprised because we thought in our heads we knew what we wanted. We wanted it to match the vibe of the building as it is. We had one gentleman come in that we were both really, really impressed with from, what is his? Handyman of Lake Orion, LLC. And he came in with ladders. None of the other people came with ladders to measure. He came in with a ladder. He was looking at the header and was trying to figure out what this is going to attach to. None of the other ones did that. He called the township and checked to see if we needed a permit or anything from the village. None of the other ones thought to do that. So, and he came up with a design that we weren't expecting, but we both really like. So there are pictures, and he came in under budget. So Aunt Cliff came in with a quote with wood-framed partitions and a sliding door, which is kind of what we thought we wanted. The Handyman of Lake Orion came in with its glass panels. There's an image in your packet. Just glass panels with a header and a footer, and then a door that opens in that would be ADA accessible. I think we both like it, and I'll let Shauna give her opinion too, but I think we both liked it because it's a little bit more modern. The wooden doors would flow with the building as it is now, but our building is also 24 years old. So I think we like the idea of it being a little bit more modern in that space. And then another really good point, not that I hope we ever do take it down, but it would be a lot easier to remove at some point down the road if we ever decided to do away with that. So I'll let Shauna do that.
And Aunt Cliff is oak doors, right?
Yeah,
Not the glass.
yeah, and it was a little over budget. Shauna, do you have anything you'd like to add?
So a lot of libraries are in the middle of doing a lot of these reconstruction configurations, adding these quiet study room doors. And I've seen a lot of them add this glass type that the Handyman of Lake Orion is offering us. So it was kind of funny to find him giving us that idea, and even though I've heard other libraries talking about it, I didn't even think about applying it to us here at our library until I actually saw what it is that he had imagined for us. The third and final quote that Allied is giving, they're going with that aluminum-based around. So Ann Cliff was giving us a wood oak panels, and Allied is suggesting aluminum. It would be like the doors to our fire exits in the adult area in the children's garden. That type of color aluminum. So the last thing that I would say that I was impressed with in terms of the handyman is he actually had his glass panel service provider come out and measure the space with him. So he actually visited our site over 2 times and was making sure that he gave us like the most up-to-date information that he could. So we were both very impressed with him.
And his turnaround time was like 4 weeks, and everybody else, it was like 14 to 16 weeks. So he would actually be able to get it done for us relatively quickly.
Allied is 13,007. Okay.
And that was from almost a year ago.
Mhm. So it's probably
that
more
could
than
go
that
up,
now.
yeah.
Just materials wise.
I have a question on this. So we're talking about quiet study room doors, and I'm not seeing that they're sealed really well. So how is that gonna, I mean, it'll cut down a little bit on the noise, but I'm just not really sure, with sliding doors.
Oh,
and-
sliding, the sliding.
Well, I just, none of them really seemed like they were, because my understanding is that we were looking for a place where if somebody needed to do a doctor's visit or something like that, they could do that privately, and I guess I'm not really understanding, how they're going to have that privacy, because there's space and.
There wouldn't be any space from top to bottom.
Okay.
It would be completely enclosed that way. And really, there would be,
With the glass ones? you're
with
talking
with any of them.
about. Okay.
Yeah, with
Okay.
any of them. There really would only, I think the glass partitions, there's a little clip that holds the two together,
Okay.
but it's,
It's very seamless. Like,
yeah,
it goes-
there's,
Okay.
And the glass is thick enough that
I'm just not really
conversations can be
understanding.
heard.
that's all.
right, yeah. It's, yeah, and they do use these. In fact, at our annex building, I think they had the same partitions that closed off another office that was in the back area of that. Once you see it, you'll
Okay.
say, oh,
It'll make more
I see that all the
sense.
time.
Okay,
But
but see, I don't know, I guess I'm not picturing it in my head. Of course, it took me 4 times to try to figure out.
But he compared it to like shower glass. If you have a shower glass enclosure that
Okay.
thick, it's
Yeah.
that nice thick,
Okay.
quarter
Okay.
inch, at least half-inch glass.
I used to take, years ago, take my son to get tutored in math to the Clarkson Library. And they had just installed the conference during that time frame. First off, it's impressive. It looks very professional. It looks, I mean, you walk in, I like the look of it. If that was usually always booked by somebody, it was a conference room. So we go around the corner, and they had a policy, they had these little study rooms that had just basically wood doors with a window. You could look in to see if anybody's in there. And they'd hang up a red thing if somebody, at the time that they're done, so you knew if they were over time. And I went in there one time with my son and his tutor to talk to them, and when I shut the door, I'm not one to feel claustrophobic. I felt claustrophobic. It would have, I think if it would have had a glass door, I would have felt like the room wasn't so small. But I'm like, is it getting hot in here? So I was impressed with theirs. I mean, if anybody wants to see that type of style, I would go to Clarkson Library.
I have these glass shower doors at home, and it's just the glass that, fits together, not not one drop of water gets through it, so.
And it is tempered glass also.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, the other question I had with the baseboard heaters being in those alcoves, is that going to fog up the glass? It shouldn't?
No.
Okay. That was the other concern that I had. is
Yeah.
It can get.
I can't imagine that it would. And when they're not in use, the door will stay open just for
Right.
airflow, but
Yeah, okay.
But yeah, I can't, do you think that that
No,
would be an issue?
each alcove does have a
vent.
ceiling wall unit that keeps the
Okay.
air circulating with the
Okay,
main unit and stuff like that.
okay, perfect.
One of our concerns last year was how hot it could get in there. Is that taken care of too?
It's going to be on the same unit.
Okay.
It,
It
like I
goes
said,
through
it
that,
has,
it goes through there, the air
The-
cooling?
like I said, there's one unit in the wall that blows air out. So in the summer, with the sun shining in it, yeah, it's going to get hot, but it gets hot in there now.
Okay.
But it still has the same, like I said, the same airflow as the rest of the building.
So it's not going to change anything?
And they can always close the blinds.
Right, yeah.
And we'll keep a lot of the heat out of there too.
Okay.
So maybe on hot days, we'll just have the staff make sure those stay closed
Yeah, okay.
early in the morning.
Okay, I need somebody to explain to me on these drawings.
Which company?
Which page?
Page 52, where or what am I looking at, how it's attached to the wall and the ceiling and?
So it's really cool in terms of, it's going to be attached to only the ceiling and the sides, and the third of the, like, the entry, the reason why I say it's cool is the bottom, there's nothing hindering a person entering the actual room just because we're framing around it. So when you open up the door, there's not going to be a bump or anything that's going to stop, like a wheelchair or a stroller or anything that needs to walk through that entrance. They did also extend the entryway of the door, I think 3 inches past what ADA compliance is. So it will be attached on the ceiling and the sides and the bottom. So the picture doesn't show that for the doorway because the left-hand swinging, the number 2, I think it says in there. I think that's supposed to be the handle. That is the actual door. The rectangle underneath that won't be there. There's no, it's a free, barrier-free entrance.
So this one shows a sliding door, but our door is just going to fold in.
Right.
Correct.
He didn't have a picture of exactly what we wanted.
Okay.
I do like the look of the glass.
I do too.
But
I guess the only thing that I would think about is, to me, if someone is coming in for something pretty private, this doesn't really give you any privacy.
We have a lot of teens in the building, and so we have to be careful about how much privacy we offer.
But I mean, if an adult came in for, say, I don't know, they're going to be on their computer talking to the doctor or something.
Mhm.
Sound is private, the sound is private.
I know, but I just don't know.
So we can suggest that patrons have their computer facing the windows with the blinds down where you can't see in from the outside. We can also, if people are concerned with more sound things, we can also make sure that we provide headphones or encourage that they bring their own headphones to help make those types of situations more private. So there are workarounds to help that type of thing, if that helps. Most of the time, when we look in those rooms, people are always sitting with their back to the window and they're facing the entrance of the library. And I don't know if that comes from like those old psychological traits of fight or flight, and you gotta see what's gonna come at you. Like, some people like to sit in restaurants that way when they don't wanna have people behind them situation. So, that's just something I have noticed since we have been having a lot of people sit with computers in the building recently.
Just a thought.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Does this company provide any warranty on their work for a period of time?
Which company?
I think you're recommending Handyman Lake Orion.
Yes, I believe his vendor would be providing that information. Three-year warranty on all products, including all the costs of parts and labor to fix the product. Any deviation from this estimate must be approved. So that's on page 50. It looks like,
Product being the glass and the hardware to fix the glass.
yes.
Oh, you know what? I think we took that out. Sorry, Shauna, that's my fault. Because there was just like one line at the top, and I just didn't want to add the extra page.
But yes,
There is,
the answer is yes.
But there is a warranty.
Okay.
Sorry.
How many years?
3.
And the warranty is for materials?
All products, including all the cost of parts and labor to fix the product.
Labor, okay. Any other questions? No? Jay? Heather? Cheryl? Okay, my questions have been answered. This is an action item, so we need a motion.
I'll move to approve the Handyman Lake Orion LLC drawers.
In a second.
I'll second.
We need to add that it's being paid out of the grant funds.
Okay, being paid from the grant funds.
This is a money item, funds, so Susan?
Yes.
Jay?
Yes.
Heather? Yes. Cheryl?
Yes.
And me, yes. Okay. Motion passes, and we will have some study room doors.
I will say too, just a reminder, we already have the money in our bank account, so it's not something we have to pay for and be reimbursed.
Excellent. Okay, great. New business, Laura, strategic plan.
Okay, so Shauna and I think we've got a really good plan of how to implement this whole thing. So we have broken the staff up into 4 teams. They were able, Shauna made a really cute video. I sent you the video. Hopefully you had a chance to look at it. And then they were able to come in and sign up for whichever group they wanted to sign up for. So each group will meet 4 times. And Shauna made a nice workbook for everybody that includes kind of a map, a journey map, we call it. And then there's some worksheet pages for them to fill out each time they meet. So their first session is to establish, Shauna and I we had our first one today with our first group. And so we kind of, Shauna goes through the workbook and we talk about what our expectations are. Like, I think a lot of people thought they have to come up with an idea, figure out how to pay for it, figure out how to make things happen. We're just asking them to come up with ideas at this point. So they will meet 4 times and brainstorm their ideas, do a little research, figure out if it's feasible or not, talk about how much money it's going to cost, if it's going to cost any money, who's going to be responsible for it, how long is it going to take, what could go wrong, all of those kinds of things. So we ask them to come up with 3 or 4 ideas within their group, research them, and then they'll come to the managers at the end of their 4 weeks and kind of present to us what their ideas are, what they think will. So the group we met with today was organizational excellence. So if they come to us and say, we should have ice cream socials every Friday for staff, they have to present, why is that a good idea? How much is this going to cost? All of those things. Just an example. I don't know if that's anything that they would come up with. But so they will meet and then present their ideas to us. Then the managers will meet after that and talk about, okay, is this really something that we can do? what are the benefits, what are the pros and cons, what are the costs, what about staff, who would do it, and those kinds of things. And then as managers, we would determine how to get that implemented if we feel like it's a good idea. So Shauna has done an amazing job, as she always does, with putting things together. We have our teams, our little animals teams, because like organizational excellence sounded so they are the turtle team. And so she made little maps and charts and stuff with turtles. And so I'll let Shauna talk about the rest of it.
Well, and in your board packet, we have the implementation timeline. So as each team comes up with their ideas and the managers approve them, the managers will then decide if it is feasible that the library can do, like, can we afford to have ice cream socials every Friday? Who knows? And if that's the case, then that would be added to this implementation timeline. And you would be able to see when it will become started, completed, so on and so forth. You'll notice that the last column says year 3, 2026, and that the final evaluation and report for every single one of the strategic directives will be completed in March of 2026. So the idea is that we started this in March of 2024. We will continue through the whole process until March of 2026. And that is when you'll get the final representation of this plan. And then the hopes is, not that I want to say that we're going to be planning for the next one, but that we would take that year to plan for the next strategic plan too. So.
And then the board would receive their regular strategic plan updates every 3 months on what kind of projects have been accepted that we're moving forward with. And then also the staff will be, in their staff reports, they will start marking on each of the things that they've done, which strategic goal it goes with. So if it goes with organizational excellence and they planned a training session for staff or something like that. So you'll be able to see every month what exactly is being done to utilize our strategic plan.
Okay, thank you. Looks wonderful. Any questions? Cheryl?
I do. I guess my concern is that there's a whole lot of things that are already planned for like this year's timeline. Programs, activities, that kind of stuff. Are we acquisitions like this new door that we're getting put in? Is any of that being made part of this plan to reach our objectives, and how will we see that?
That's a really great question, and I expect those items to fall into this. And the cool thing that we'll do is we'll be adding the measurement metrics of being able to say, hey, we've become more inviting and supportive by adding this store, and we've had over 25 uses in the last 6 months. And then, trying to make sure I answered every part of your question.
Well, and just what about programs that already exist that are happening, and how do those meet our current objectives?
So one of the ways that the planning committee kind of looked at those was that perhaps it's more of a marketing issue in terms of people aren't aware that we are already doing some of those things. So I think we'll be tackling it in a different way other than saying, hey, we already offer this program. It would be more about, hey, we're marketing it that way. Is that kind of what you're talking about? Or
I'm just thinking like, okay, we're doing tech assistance at the senior center now.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure that would meet one of our objectives of, being out and, getting more out to the community. Shouldn't we also include that in here? Because I think it just began this year, I don't remember for sure, but let's assume it began after January 1, and our strategic plan kind of started January 1, wouldn't we include that in here to say, that's why I was surprised when I got this and there was nothing on here. And I'm like, well, what about the stuff that we're already doing this year?
Yeah, there's no measurement metrics assigned to any of those things yet. Once they're assigned by the people who are going to maintain them, that's when they'll be added to this list. So like for the tech help specifically, that's already been assigned to Alyssa's public service team. If they deem that every month they need to have at least 10 people at that particular thing, then we can then quantify or get some data to back up the need for that service.
I'm thinking I would like to see it before it becomes a metric.
Okay.
You know, like what are we already doing, and it may meet this metric, but right now we think it will, or something like, I don't know.
Okay.
And it's funny because we actually did have those on here before, and we decided to take them off because it really just kind of launched the actual plan itself. I know the strategic plan was approved and it was being planned, but it really just kind of launched last week, 2 weeks ago, when we started forming the teams and all of that kind of stuff. So we did actually have that on there because we're always doing things that are going to fall into these categories, but we just weren't sure because it wasn't a result of the strategic plan that we did those events. It was just because we do great things all the time. So we wanted these things to be as a result of our team meetings going forward.
So we're not going to show anything we're existing, we currently
I think
do, or like we're already planning stuff for summer reading program, we're not going to include any of that. I mean, that doesn't make sense to me because this is our first year of the strategic plan.
Mm-hmm. But like the summer reading program wasn't involved, it wasn't really in the last strategic plan. That's just something that's an ongoing thing that we do every year.
Now, the study room doors were in the last
They were in the
plan.
last-
But it
strategic
will
plan.
meet some of our objectives, that's what I'm saying.
Mhm.
Some of the things we do currently meet these objectives. And why shouldn't we have that on here to take credit for it?
So are you wanting to change the timeline of our strategic plan from January 2024 to March of 2026?
Because what is it now?
March of 2024 to March of 2026. Because it was approved in January or March, February.
Okay, so say it starts March 1st, whatever.
Yeah.
Then what do we do with existing things that we're doing that meet some of these objectives?
They'll get, when they have a name, they have a evaluation metric, and a start and end timeline is when they'll be added to the timeline.
So give me an example for something that we'll see in our June meeting.
In your June meeting, you should see, well, now you'll see the tech help on there. 'Cause that'll be a thing on there. We've been working on a social responsibility initiative where we've partnered with a lot of different locations to get donations to like OSEF and the hospital. We've been sending things over there from one of our programs. So that's another example.
We were going to do school supplies for BGYA
Right.
next.
The study room doors were technically a part of last strategic plan. I would like to keep that as an accomplishment of the last strategic plan.
Yeah, that's fine.
What about library?
But I mean, maybe
things?
the use of it or something might meet one of
Oh,
our
sure.
objectives here.
It could, yeah, the inviting and supportive team could definitely put something together for that. Absolutely.
So we'll see, I was looking at this as though it started January 1, which is why I said, but I don't see anything on here. You know, I turned the page and I'm like, wait, where's the rest of the report, you know? So we'll see more filled in when we get our June report.
Yeah, because all 4 of the teams will have met by then, the managers will have gotten to see things, and we'll be able to say, we can quantify and what's the other word? Quantify and, there's 2 types of data that you can collect.
Quantitative.
There we go.
Yeah.
Where we can ask for feedback from people who have used those services and such. Like with the study room doors, since it's a grant, we've had to go through so many different processes of getting feedback. Once we have the doors installed, we have to get another set of feedback to send back to the grant people. So it'll be all part of the process.
Okay, I'll wait till we get June. See if it makes sense to me.
Okay, oh, I have a question.
Yes.
One thing that I don't really understand, and the strategic plan is supposed to be directed by the board, correct? And one thing that I don't really understand is how the board is involved in, you know, putting some of this stuff. I mean, we've talked about making the strategic plan a living document, and we've talked about, you know, adding objectives as we go, and I get all of that. I just don't understand yet, I don't think, how the board is involved in doing all of this stuff, so.
The board is really mostly involved in the initial strategic plan, the goals, the mission
Okay.
statement,
Okay.
all the things that we did and approved. And then it gets tossed to the staff. Okay, here's what we want you guys to do. Go for it.
Well, to implement.
To
But we don't
implement.
really know what we're implementing, kind of.
Well,
Right.
you do just by knowing what the goals and the directives are
Okay,
that you guys set.
okay.
So.
But we don't really, we just get updates on what you're doing. We don't really
Right.
have a way to, you know,
Well, I think
To
you're asking,
provide
are we
feedback.
approving anything along the way?
right.
No.
And the answer is no, we don't really need to. We just approve the overall.
No, but you can always say, you know, I don't think you guys are doing quite what we wanted in
Okay.
this goal. If the organizational excellence, if we're just, you know, having ice cream every day, no, that's not quite what we were looking for.
Okay.
You definitely have that.
So we have the ability to do some
Yeah.
input there. It's not going to be just, this is the stuff that we've done, you know, that kind of thing. We
Right.
can-
Right.
Whether you like it or not.
Right.
Right, no,
Exactly.
no.
Okay, all right, good, thank you.
Mhm.
Okay. Jay? Anything?
Looking forward to seeing more.
Okay. Susan?
I'm good.
All right. Okay, thank you very much, both of you.
Yes, thank you.
Laura, you had a lot of input there, we appreciate it.
And I do want to say one last thing. We are just starting out.
Right.
And we are doing this in-house.
Mhm.
The beauty of that is we can change and modify this along the way. So if you're not happy at some point, then we can make those changes. So I do want to put that out there.
Thank you, Shauna.
Thanks, Ron.
Okay, job description, library director.
So as I said in my email, I did not change the wording on this because this is the board's document. All I did was add some of the things that the library attorney, the employment attorney suggested that be on each job description that we have. So that's all I did. And just changed the responsibilities to job duties, because just to be consistent with our other job descriptions. But other than that, it's the same.
You took off salary just to the grade,
Yes.
correct?
Mhm.
Okay. Now I have to go back and look for that. Okay.
We
Questions?
took it off all the other job descriptions just because when it changes, every time it changes, we have to bring it back to the board, so.
Right. Cheryl?
Well, I just had a suggestion, and I know the board did this, so this is our fault. Is that some of the key things that the director is responsible for are down here, like number 16, 17, 20, instead of being right up at the very beginning, which I think they should be. Like, I would think number 17 should be number 1. And number 20 should probably be number 2. I mean, I would like to see when somebody looks at this, if they don't read through all 28, that they at least see the major key items. Anyway, my comment. What do you guys think?
Do we want an ad hoc committee to work on this?
I don't think we need that. I think by not changing anything, but changing the order, you could probably pick out what's the most important duties that you do and kind of
Okay.
just change the order a little bit.
That would be my suggestion.
Yeah.
You know better than anybody
Oh,
what
yeah.
majority of your time and energy and, the importance of everything you do.
Or even like number 16, you work with the board to give a long-range vision to the library. That's really absolutely key.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you could do it yourself.
Okay. Do you want me to bring it back next month?
That would be great.
Okay.
And if you're not changing any wording, and then it does not have to go back to the attorney again, correct?
Correct.
Everybody agree to that? Yep.
Yeah, that works.
I
Okay.
did have a couple of,
Go ahead.
at least to discuss. On page 61, number 14 talks about communicating with the CPA. Doesn't really say anything about communicating with the external auditor for the annual financial report, unless I missed that somewhere.
So you just want to add and?
Yeah, that'd be one way to handle it, say,
Which
and
number?
external auditor for the annual financial report. That makes sense?
Yep.
And then on the next page, 62, at the very bottom, talks about essential knowledge. Sound knowledge of library best practices and current trends, management policies, budgetary principles. I would say financial reporting in there as well. So just before and operational procedures, I would suggest we add financial reporting.
Does it have to go back to the attorney then?
No, it
think so.
doesn't. It's
No.
really up to
Okay.
you guys, because this is your job
It
description.
doesn't have to go back to the attorney
No.
for that.
Financial reporting. Is that what you said?
Yes,
Yeah.
after budgetary principles.
Can you say the other one again, Jay?
Yeah, on page 61, number 14, just add the words, "and external auditor for annual financial reporting."
Should it be for monthly and annual?
No, not really. You're just, they're
Oh,
available for
you're going to add it at the
consultation.
end?
That'd
So
be
the
the suggestion.
CPA for monthly financial report and the
Mhm.
auditor for, okay.
Yeah, the annual,
For annual reporting?
for annual financial reporting, yes.
Okay. Okay.
Anything else, Jay? That's it? Susan? No? Did you say no?
No.
Okay. Cheryl, anything else?
Okay.
Heather? Okay. But we are bringing this back. Okay, so this is tabled.
Do we need a motion to
Do
do?
we need a motion to table it?
Probably if we already made an action item, right?
Yeah, if it's already listed, we did. So moved.
Second?
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, it's tabled, thank you. Copier contract. And it must be funny.
It's just been an ordeal.
But before we get started, on page 64, under cost per print, black and white, under Toshiba, where it says 0083, is actually 00917.
9/7?
917.
Oh, 9/17.
Yeah. So, 3 weeks ago, Toshiba, who currently has our staff, public, and administration copier printers, we are currently leasing under them. 3 weeks ago, they show up, John, is really great, he's our rep, that it's the end of their fiscal year, so they're having a deal. Our leases were up in December, but, so right now it's just a month-to-month contract with them and everything. So they're having this deal, and it's really good, but it's only good until the 25th, which you know was yesterday. But I said, well, I can't do anything without the board, and we have the meeting on the 26th. So they did allow us an extension for this, which he came, and then I was off for a week, then he was off for a week, and here we are. So it was very stressful to get our an updated contract of pricing for new machines and get 2 other quotes. One you'll see is from Applied Innovation and one is from Visual Edge. We were looking for a new machine for the staff, one that was quicker because that one is kind of slow for staff when we're printing 500 things, and I'm like, but I have 1 page and you still have 450 left. So we were looking for something faster for staff. We wanted to update the, at the same time, the public printer. I have always hated the printer in my office. It's been a lemon since I got it 5 years ago. And we were also optional, we were looking at getting a wide format printer. The ones that were on offer from Toshiba, Applied Innovations, and Visual Edge is a 36-inch printer. So staff, we can print posters and that kind of stuff. Again, kind of a new toy we were considering. So we got some different quotes for leasing. These are all 5-year contracts again. You can see pricing for without the wide format or with the wide format printer, and the cost of printing, cost of per print, because most of these are kind of a, you have a leasing price and then you also have a usage price, and the usage covers a maintenance service. So anytime we have problems, if we run out of toner and different parts like that, they will just be sent to us. It's included in that cost and everything. So basically, the ones from Toshiba, that deal is a very good deal. If we do it with the wide format printer and everything, and with the increase in leasing price over the last 5 years, everything went up. But based on their deal versus not a deal, we're saving about $60 a month. So that is why I was rushing to get this to you guys, because that is a very good deal. Over 5 years, $60 a month, that's kind of worth it. And you can see also the cost per print has gone down from our current pricing, again, if we stay with Toshiba. So it's, yeah, it's a lot. It's upgraded machines. Again, the machines are 5 years old. Their technology, they're ancient by now.
And they were going to charge us to come get the old ones.
Yeah, our recommendation is we would like to renew with Toshiba, not only because of the deal price and the cost per print, but also because we are familiar with them. The machines that we are upgrading look almost exactly the same as what we have, and any of our settings will integrate over, so patrons, they'll look at the screen and it'll look almost exactly the same, so there won't be confusion with that. And also, there is no setup fees or hauling away the old machine fees staying with Toshiba. If we go with Applied Innovations or Visual Edge or another company, to cost to haul away would be between an estimated $300 to $500 per machine. So that's, yeah.
Yeah, one under the other.
Yeah. So again, we've had a very good relationship with Toshiba. We like their machines. We have had to call them before for service calls, and I mean, a few times they've been out here in an hour to come and fix the problem. So yeah, that is what we're recommending. So, questions?
We saw this information in the finance meeting recently.
Oh,
We
okay.
went through this, and I mean, it's incredible on color to go from 8 cents a copy down to 4.4 cents per copy. That alone is huge. And for all the other reasons that she mentioned, I personally thought it was a good plan.
Thank you for that.
Do we have minimum number of pages that we pay for?
No.
So our usage is exactly on our usage?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
And then, what about on the wide format printer, what are we paying per page for that?
Wide format, we asked that. Wide format, you're only paying the leasing fee, there's no toner included, but there is service included for the term of the contract that is provided by HP. So it is not billed per usage.
So we're
For the
just-
wide format, we would have to buy the toner and the paper, which comes on a roll and everything like that. So we're just paying for the machine for the wide format printer, just paying Toshiba for the machine of that.
So we'd have a little bit of extra costs for that.
Yeah, a little extra personal, but again, we don't know yet how much we're gonna use it, we don't know how much exactly that stuff cost. Again, the paper cost, Sean and I just did a Google search and we're like, okay, it's anywhere from 100 to 500 depending on the quality of the paper and how much is on the roll and stuff like that. So that one is a little bit more up in the air.
Would that be available for public use?
We talked about that, and we are not sure yet, because we haven't gotten to use it yet. We don't know how hard it's going to be, we don't know the cost of supplies, so we know how much to charge patrons. It is in the back of our mind, but we're not sure yet what we want to do, so.
And do we have enough wiggle room in the budget to cover that? Extra?
For that extra, yes and no. As far as the leasing cost, based on usage with the lower cost per print but higher leasing, I think we'll break about even with the wide format printer. But the toner and the paper, again, because we don't know the cost of that, I couldn't say under that specific line item, but I know like under office supplies, we would be able to cover that easily.
Yeah, because we've got 7,500 in our budget for copier.
Yeah.
And I looked at, this is going to be, just for the leasing would be about 4,300.
Mhm.
I mean, it looked like there was room in there, but
Yeah.
I don't know how much usage fees are per month.
Let's see, that's 275. I'd say 200 to 300, maybe. Again, definitely varies on
Okay.
summer reading, on 1,000 before bedtime. Yeah.
And thank you very much for the chart. That made it so much
Yeah.
easier to look at.
It's not as pretty as Shauna's, but I
It had numbers on it, I like it.
I expect colors next time, yes.
I know. Like I said, I was running out of time. I did not get confirmation of the extension of that deal for us until Friday afternoon.
Oh.
So I was like, okay.
It's wonderful, thank you. It is.
I said the same thing. Where's the colorful?
I know, right? Cheryl, anything else?
Oh, sure, we did ask at the finance meeting, the differences of just purchasing a machine outright versus leasing.
Mhm.
And with the monthly maintenance charge on top of because we would still want the service.
Sure.
And everything, 4 to 5 years, I wrote it somewhere, but 4 to 5 years, if we bought them outright, it would be about 25,000, but if leasing was about 23,000.
Cheaper to lease.
Yeah. Again, based on roughly usage, you know, that kind of stuff, so.
And I'm looking on page 68 at the actual lease maintenance agreement.
Yeah.
And under here, it shows 63 payments of $513.39, and it says it includes
Yeah.
so many images per month.
That, I did ask him to change, and we just zeroed it out because, again, that's their estimate of what we use.
Okay.
And everything. So on the actual lease agreement, it would be 63 payments of the $358.69.
Okay.
And the cost per page. And the excess images billed is monthly, not quarterly. Basically, you're paying for the usage. I don't want that quarterly, I want that monthly.
Sure, okay. All right, that makes sense. I just want to make sure that was correct.
Okay. Anything else, Cheryl? Heather? Jay, you're all set? Susan? I'm set. Okay. We need a motion.
I move that we renew the lease with Toshiba under these terms and conditions for the next 63 months.
Support?
Okay. This is money, we should do it. Okay, Susan?
Yes.
Jay?
Yes.
Heather? Yes. Cheryl?
Yes.
Jan? Yes. Okay, motion passes. And we are at staff reports. I signed up for the walk program and I can't go the next 2 weeks. But I will be there.
You're just waiting for the nice weather, I know.
Well, no. Actually, it's tea again, still. Any comments? Where to start? Yeah, really. I did have a question, I'm trying to find it now. Oh, well, okay, since nobody's going, I guess I will. This is in Lori's report. I have been shelf reading. What's shelf reading?
Shelf reading is when they go through and read each spine label and make sure that they're in the right spot.
Oh, well. how about
It has to be
that?
done every once in a while.
People put things back in.
Mhm.
I do have a question. The little free library giveaway, can you just talk about?
So the author writes the Dog Man series, if
Okay.
you're familiar with those. And so he's giving one of these to each state, I believe. And he's going to stock it with books. Like, I forget does she say what the number of books or the number of, he's giving a certain amount of each book so that it can be refilled. It's a lot.
1,000 of his books, it
Yeah.
says, yeah.
So we can keep refilling it. They're brand new books too, so it's an author that's offering to do
That'd be
that.
great. The kids love those books.
Mhm.
So he's actually giving the library to itself?
Mhm.
Wow. Where would you put it?
Well, we'll work that out when we get the grant, but I would think in the children's garden would make sense.
Oh, that's a
to
good
put it
idea.
in.
Nice.
Yeah, that's good.
I have one in front of my house, and I can't stock it because I have so many people stop and drop things off. They take, but they drop off more than they take, and I'm like, just take something away. So you don't have the control you think you're going to have.
Right.
Which is all good.
Yeah.
It's all good. They wave, it's all good. But that would be fun.
Mhm.
The Hadley Library up Hadley Road, tiny little library. They've had a little free library out there forever.
Mhm.
Yeah. Very cool.
There are a couple in town.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, the FOL stocks them.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Don't stock mine. I can't get my stock out there.
Do we know how many there are?
How many little free libraries in town?
In
I
Brandon?
think there's 4. Miss Brand fills most of them, I think, but I think I know there's one in Crossman Park. We did talk to the Parks and Rec about putting one out at Hadley Park, so that's kind of in the works. But,
Oh, that'd be a good idea.
and because there's a lot of soccer kids and stuff. There's one in front of Lovewood Local.
One in front of Jan's house.
Jan's house. I think there's
Come
one
visit.
at one of the elementary schools too. So I'll have to ask Fran, she knows where they are.
There's one at the senior center, but they actually stock it with food.
I'm glad to see the lockers are being used and are popular. It was a good investment. I had a question. It says public services staff got a new office. Where's their new office?
So we moved, public services staff, we moved to the one next to Kathleen's office, which was Danny's office.
Okay.
Danny needed more room, and public service staff, I thought it would be better for them to be closer to the desk so that if whoever's at the desk needs help, they can grab them pretty quickly. And so Danny and Lori are now in the office back by the back door, by the staff entrance, which makes sense because as Danny gets shipments of books in, they're right there. She doesn't have to haul them all the way through the library each time. And so it's been working out pretty well.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just wanted to point out a couple of things if I could.
Sure.
On page 70, the new radon detector for the library of things. I think this area is kind of known to have a lot of potential radon, so I think that's going to be a popular item. In Alyssa's report there, she talked about the computer scams and other safety-related issues, and then being asked back to do it again. It's such an important piece for anybody at any age, but particularly seniors. They seem to prey on them, and so here the library is actually leading, how to think about this and how to protect yourself. I thought that was really great. In Anya's report, talked about the Cozy Corner getting bigger and bigger every single week. That's really impressive. Yeah. The leprechaun trap, I thought that was pretty creative. The Brandon Reeds continuing to go on again this summer. The fact that you're already planning for fall, and we just started spring like a couple of days ago. It's just page after page of really, really good stuff from all of the staff. Taylor's report on page 74 talked about a 10-hour-long webinar module called Teen Services Fundamentals. And I know we're trying to attract more teens in, so again, just page after page of really great programs. Thank you.
One thing that didn't make it on Taylor's page was bingo, which was a huge success.
Wait a minute. We were there. We won better prizes.
I heard.
I already talked to her about it.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
We weren't sure how it was going to go.
It was-
If we bought a bunch of
Yeah.
prizes and then 5 people showed up.
Yeah, just have it again.
So now that we know it's a hit, we will invest.
Yeah, the room was full. We ran out of chips.
More chips?
Don't worry, there was some on the floor over here.
Oh, no! Not at the back table, I hope.
And just a question, do they have to be a member to sign up for these things? Do we ask them to sign up? Get them to fill out an application while they're here? Get a library card?
We don't generally ask. We could mention it. We hope that they're going to come here and be so enthralled that they're just going to, how do I join?
So everybody pulled out all the successes, because it's like every time I look through it, it's like, great turnout here, across the board. I think that you guys are running some very well-received programs. It's really great. And I just want to tell Danielle, happy birthday month. My husband does the same thing. He goes, March is my birthday month, so every day we need to celebrate my husband. So I love that. Just everything, like I said, everybody it looks like playing a very successful programs.
And the teen escape room, that sounds cool too.
It was, yeah.
They had so much fun they didn't even eat the pizza.
No,
They
really had a good time.
How does that happen? Were there boys there?
There were.
They're the
They
ones
were
that
so busy and they having so much fun, they forgot about the food.
Oh, my God.
Excellent.
That never happens.
That's great.
And I'm so impressed with Tab. She keeps adding to that, and I'm just so pleased about that. And you said there's a large group of teens here, and that's great.
We do get a lot of teens in the building. Especially lately. Even during spring break, they're on spring break and they were all here today.
That's funny.
Clearly, they're not all on spring break.
Well, they were here at like 10 in the morning, so they better be on
Wow.
spring break.
They're not in bed?
So they're not in school, but they
Yeah, they were here early.
Okay, anything else with staff reports, or we could go on to library statistics? Thank you, Jesse.
I have a couple of questions. So in the physical items added, we added quite a bit in February compared to January. I'm just curious if there's a reason.
Well, I think they don't order a lot in December because the budgets
Okay.
are coming to an end.
Okay.
So once that budget gets released in January,
Okay.
there's a lot
Just
of
kind of
ordering
catching
going
up
on.
with it.
So
Okay.
they probably just all came in at once.
Okay, very good. I was just curious because it just seemed like that was a really big jump. The
And we
teen
did, I'm
attendance.
sorry, but
That's
we
okay.
did increase their budgets this year for materials.
Okay, so that may have
it's
something
more
to do
to
with
spend.
it as well.
Mhm.
Okay, awesome. Noticing just the teen attendance has increased and the juvenile attendance, big jump February from January. I assume that has something to do with the programs starting back up and all that kind of stuff, so just stuff I noticed. Thank you.
Anything else?
Yeah, the trend on the door count is really good. When you're looking at 2022 and 2023, and then taking the 2024 and kind of expanding that out, should that continue, that would be a huge increase for this year. Also, the early literary sessions and the early literary attendance is really on a positive trend.
Thank you. Anything else? Okay, calendar review for April. We're going to approve the audit, start the board evaluation again, wow. That's that time of year. Also, we're going to bring back the job description for the library director.
That's not calendar review. That'd be
That's
on-
items for next agenda.
Oh, items for next year, you're right. Okay, so we'll do that down there. Public comment?
Before we
Yes.
get to that, what about the bylaws? Are we bringing the bylaws back as well?
Next agenda.
Yes, under items for next agenda, yes.
I may comment if I may. I appreciate you considering my recommendation to separate out the very useful career builder tools from your bylaws. There was discussion about whether the bylaws should be reviewed by the attorney. I would highly recommend that that be done. The bylaws become a tool that's useful to the board and actually used by your attorney should you have to use them in a confrontational situation. So your attorney probably wants to see those bylaws and will help protect you by reviewing them. That's what I have to say. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. Thank you. Items on hold. Well,
With the policy
we have
for the
the,
director.
It'll be on hold early next month.
well, their next agenda. So I would say items for next agenda. We have the board bylaw review, and we have the library director job description,
Oh, that would be nice.
audit.
That's on calendar.
That's already on calendar review.
Oh, okay.
I think, is that it?
The two policies that are coming back, the social media policy and the photo release form.
What was the last one?
The photo release
Oh,
form.
okay. And you will recategorize. Okay, if you want to run it by me, that'd be
Okay.
great. I can do that. Anything else we've forgotten? If not, it is 6:44 and we are adjourned.